Growing your own tomatoes has never been easier. I'm going to show you how I grew tomatoes and peppers in these $10 off-grid hydroponic towers and how you can do it too. First, we'll talk about these DIY garden towers and how they work so well with this method. Next, I'll show you how I built mine. It's easy. I'll go over a few mistakes I made in the beginning and how I corrected them. And we'll discuss how to maintain them, plus 3 secrets to make this method work. All right, let's get started. First off, this is the second video in a series called the Continuous Harvest System. The first video described the cracking method of hydroponics. If you haven't watched that one yet, I'll link it up above and down in the description. Go watch that one first. Hydroponics is growing plants without soil. It usually involves pumps, filters, and all kinds of fancy equipment. Don't worry though, if you watch the first video, then you know that the cracking method simplifies all of that so that all you really need is a container, like a bucket, some nutrients, which is the food for your plants, something to hold the plants, and the plants themselves. Now, as for the buckets, the red ones came from Firehouse Subs. They were $3 a piece, and that went to charity. So that makes each tower $9. I got some white ones from Walmart's Deli for $1 a piece. That was the deal. Now, I use $1 pool noodles to hold my plants. That's the cheapest and easiest way that I found that works. The nutrients are food for the plants, and I have a separate video explaining how to easily mix it and where to get some. There's a playlist on my channel called Frequently Asked Questions, and you can find it there along with some other helpful videos. Now, all you need is your plants, and like I explained in the first video, you can get them from the nursery, you can grow your own, or you can do like me and use microgreens. Now, before we put it together, let's go over why it works so well. First off, everything is easy to get. When I first started hydroponics, there was no internet. I had to find specialty hydroponic shops, which wasn't easy. And if there wasn't one around, I had to pay shipping charges too, even for the smallest thing. And remember, there's no Amazon back then either. Now all you need is a bucket and some fertilizer. One of my viewers found hundreds of free buckets. These are easy to get anywhere in the world. And if you can't find a bucket, any container that holds water will work. Simple. Hydroponic enthusiasts have been growing in buckets for years. They use a net pot on the top of it. Now, I think we've made an improvement that's helped a lot, and that's having the holes on the side. You see, everyone has the holes on the top, and if it were outdoors, rain would leak in. It'd overflow your bucket and drown your air roots. Also, with the plants on top, you can't stack them. You just have a bunch of buckets laying around on the ground, taking up space. Now, with the holes on the side, no rain gets in, and we can grow vertical. Amazing, right? All right, let's build one. Now, once you get your supplies together, you need to cut some holes in your bucket. I have another video on that, but basically I just took a hole saw and drilled some 2-inch holes 4 inches apart under the lip of the bucket. I also drilled a few 1/4-inch holes around the lip for airflow. This will allow fresh air in for your all-important air roots. And that's it. You've built yourself a vertical grow tower that can run hundreds of dollars. The only difference in mine is that it's off-grid. There's no electricity to pay for. There's no pumps to worry about with them leaking or getting clogged up. It's simple. Now all you have to do is fill each container with nutrients and stack them up. I went 3 high on most. I did stack one 4 high, but it gets a little unstable and it's kind of high to stretch for a short guy like me. I used the pool noodles to put the plants in. and I'm done. Now all you have to do is maintain it and wait for delicious tomatoes. Now, a mistake I made in the beginning was the way I cut the pool noodle. I thought I was being smart cutting it on an angle. One side helped hold the plant up, and the other end that was in the bucket aimed the roots down towards the water. The first time it rained, though, I found out the pool noodle funneled water right into the bucket. Not good. So I cut all the pool noodles on the outside. I'd squared them off. The other problem was inside. If I filled it up too much, the pool noodle held the roots down underwater. Now that situation actually helped me with the maintenance, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But as for the pool noodle, in subsequent grows, I just squared them off as usual. All right, the tomatoes are planted, and now the waiting game begins. What do you do in the meantime? Now here come the big secrets. The first one is so easy, it's tough, and it's the most important. Not just with these tomatoes in this tower, with all my cracky containers. Maintain the level. Simple, right? But here's the problem. Because hydroponics uses only a fraction of the water that traditional gardens use, we get complacent. Especially when we're using 5-gallon buckets, right? In the beginning, it's going to take a long time for your plants to go through the nutrient solution. You may keep looking at it and say, it's still got some in it. I'll do it tomorrow. Now, a lot of people have given me ideas with homemade indicators involving corks, straws, pen casings, dowels, and so on. One really smart viewer used a fishing bobber or float and a sinker to make an indicator. I thought that was pretty cool. Now, I applaud the ingenuity and the experimentation. I love it. I love both, and I do that all the time. But I think we're overlooking something important. All of those may be good as a warning like, hey, you forgot to maintain your level, but not as an indicator as to how low you can go before refilling. I maintain my levels. Over the years, you've heard me say countless times, between half and 3/4 full at all times. And I was talking about all my cracky containers. Plants grow a little bigger like this, you want to check every 3 or 4 days and maintain this level between half and 3/4 full. In the morning, I get my coffee, I go into the garden, listen to the birds, smell the air, and maintain my levels. Little microgreens may not need anything for a month, but that doesn't mean you let the nutrient level drop all the way down before refilling it. Just because your bucket holds 3.5 gallons, don't let it use up 3 gallons before you refill it. Maintain your level. All right, here's hot tip number 2. Mr. Doozy, I can't see inside the bucket. How do I know when to refill it? Easy. Every day. Now, when your plants are big, when your plants are small, maybe every 3 or 4 days. But when they get big, every day, go and remove a pool noodle, one that you didn't put a plant in, leave one empty. Put your finger in and point towards the ground. Is your finger wet? Yes? Great. Do nothing. Put the pool noodle back on. Is your finger dry? Okay. Add a little nutrient solution, a little at a time, until it gets to the tip of your fingertip, not all the way up. Remember, if you're maintaining, it ain't going to take a lot. Now use a funnel to make it easier. And once you can reach in and touch the water level, replace the pool noodle and go sip on some coffee. Then go check your next one. And that's it. That's so simple, yet so important, at least in my experience. If you're having problems with your cracky setups, I promise you that this habit will fix most of it if you're not doing it already. Now, my third tip, what I do, since I don't use meters, when the plants get big, your tomatoes, peppers, and such, not your leafy greens, when they start using a lot of nutrients, 3 to 4 quarts every day or every 2 days, I just top it off with fresh water every other time I fill it up. So one time I'll refill it with nutrients, the next time I'll top it off with fresh water. And I do that through the rest of the grow. Now, you don't have to do this, and everyone will have to experiment. It's not a silver bullet. We all have different varieties of plants at different stages of growth. We live in different environments, rain, moisture, heat, humidity, and so on. This is just what I do, and it seems to be working. All right, other things you may have to do is tie up your plants or trellis them. I just use some S-hooks and twine. You have to do that with your tomato plants. That worked well for me. Now you also have to be on the lookout for caterpillars, the dreaded hornworm, and mealybugs, to just mention a few. Now, while you're down low refilling your buckets, look up at the leaves. They like to hide underneath the leaves. All right, let's talk about the benefits, and then I have one more tip for you. All right, benefit number one is cheap. You can make one for under $50 with new white food grade buckets. And the price goes down to almost nothing if you're resourceful and you don't mind asking bakeries, delis, cafeterias, and such for some. The nutrients, when you buy them in bulk, comes out to about 25 cents a gallon. Hydroponics uses only a fraction of the water that a traditional garden uses, so you won't go through a lot of it and it won't put a hurting on your water bill. Benefit number two. This is a tower, but each bucket is self-contained. I grow a lot of leafy greens, especially kale, so my tower will be full of it. Some people like a variety and they want to put a lot of different produce together in a tower. Now, some plants use nutrients faster than others, so I like to keep them separated. Since each bucket is independent of each other, you can put different kinds of produce on different layers. That's how I have peppers growing with the tomatoes. It may look like they're all growing together, but each is in its separate container. And I put the tomatoes on the bottom since I knew they'd grow taller than the peppers and I'd end up having to tie them up. If this is your first time, I would probably go with a determinate variety or a dwarf species just so it doesn't get out of hand. Another benefit is it's easy. Each tower of 3 buckets took me about 20 minutes to drill the holes and about another 20 minutes to set it up with nutrients and plants. No weeding, no tilling, no composting. And when we harvest, no amending the soil. Rinse out your container, refill it, and start again. There's no pumps, no filters, no electricity. Now, if you want to put a bubbler in, then go for it. We're working with the basics. You can always do better if you're so inclined. Me, I got about 50 containers going, so I probably won't be stringing quarter-inch tubing all over the place. Now, where the 5-gallon buckets used to be a problem outdoors in the rain,
down in there, and if you get a lot of rain, it can flood it.
With the holes on the side, it makes it no problem to be outdoors where the best grow light is, the sun. Let's see, and other problems besides pests? Yeah, there's 2 things I know you guys are going to ask, and that's algae and mosquitoes. As for the mosquitoes, keep the holes covered, even if there's no plant. You can hot glue screen or old pantyhose over any air holes that you make. Now, one of our viewers suggested putting a little neem oil in the water, and someone else suggested putting a few open buckets around the yard and putting the mosquito dunks or pucks in them. These are easier for the mosquitoes to get into, and then the pucks take care of them. All right, now algae. Oh boy. When I first put these together, I put photos out on all the social media, and comments came over across all of them, people saying, "You're going to get algae. You have to paint your buckets." Okay, I'm not being rebellious. This is an experiment. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. If you want to paint your buckets, or if you want to cover your buckets, awesome. More power to you. Remember, just like the bubbler, if you can do more, great. I just hate it when people say you have to do something, and it's just because they heard it somewhere or they tried it a few times. I try things over and over and over and over again. I'm stubborn like that. And that's how I figure out new ways of doing things. Take a look at these 3 towers. Notice anything? Which tower has the most and the ripest fruit? The white unpainted buckets. Now, this was just our first experiment with tomatoes, but when the plants were small, there was a little algae in them. And as the plants grew bigger, they shaded the buckets, and I think the algae died off. This is just the way I do it, and I'll try again. It may not work the next time, and that's part of the fun for me. Paint your bucket if you want to, or don't. You may get algae, or you may not. Remember, we're going cheap and easy. There's solutions to everything. I'm just taking it to the extreme to show you that you don't have to be afraid to experiment and to have fun. You don't have to do things just because it's common held knowledge. It was common held knowledge at one time that the world was flat. What if everyone just believed that and never had the courage to explore? I do what I do to give you permission to have fun, to fail sometimes, and to also have the courage to try again. I give you the permission to start and not be intimidated by all the technobabble and the know-it-alls. I give you permission to be one of the doers and not someone who sits on the sidelines watching others play. When you learn to grow your own food, when you have fun doing it, and when you can do it affordably, then you will not be able to contain your joy and you will spread it with others. That is how we teach the world to feed itself. Now, don't forget to watch part 3 of the continuous harvest system so you can always have fresh food at your fingertips. Go grow some food, my friends. Live to inspire, keep on growing, be the change. Much love. I'll catch you later.